Welcome to Built on Faith Homestead or Leaving Egypt, depending on which video platform you like to watch your content on. My name is Justin, and in today's video, we're going to talk about this new movie, Sound of Freedom. And I'm going to be honest with you, I've not seen the movie, but I did look it up, and I found it incredibly interesting that people like Forbes magazine are putting out articles how this is all just a conspiracy theory, and how world elites aren't trafficking children, and how most children are abused by those that know them, and therefore this is taking away from that, and this is going to cause problems because everyone's just going to be looking at the world elite and not paying attention to the people that are right around their children all the time or whatever. I want to talk about that, and I also want to talk about how I believe that this movie made it through the cracks and people are going to be awakened even more so to how evil our world is, but then how I believe that the world elite will then use this momentum against us, actually, if we're not careful, and push us further than what we need to go. If that sounds interesting to you, please stick around for the rest of this video. Also, if you catch me looking off this direction, I am currently smoking some fish for our dinner, and I am warming up some fried zucchini on the smoker because I can't imagine that that's bad. And that's going to be part of, and we've already made a salad. That's going to be our dinner tonight while my wife finishes up the cannon. We had my mom down. We've been incredibly busy, and we're going to continue to be incredibly busy here for a while, and I know that. And if you've ever had a garden, you know sometimes everything just hits in a way where it's like you got to can it today, you don't have a choice. So that's kind of where we're at right now. My mom come down earlier today and was helping. She got to spend some time with the grandkids, but the poor thing had to break beans most of the time she was here. Thank you, Mom. We couldn't have done it without you. If you look in the comment section and you see a lady commenting by the name of Tracy, that is by the name of Tracy Poole. Let me be clear, that is Mama to me.
I once was lost, oh, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see.
All right, so let's jump into this. First of all, let's address what makes the most sense just off the top. Is it a conspiracy theory that children are being trafficked by world elite? I think the obvious answer is no. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is occurring. We know that's occurring quite easily from things like Epstein Island and the world elite that was going there, the Bill Gates of the world, the former presidents of the world, guys that were once princes and are now kings going there. That seems like a very obvious thing. Not only that, there has been some changes to laws that only make sense if that is what's going on. Let me give you an example. Previously, if you brought a child across the border, across our southern border especially, right, you brought that child and you said, this is my child, they could DNA test you and that child to make sure it's actually your child. They have since stopped that. Why? Why would you stop that? Why would you not care if that child is actually related to the individual bringing them across the border? Why would you want to know if somebody, why wouldn't you want to know if somebody's lying to you about that? Or things like in California where it was voted down to make it a serious crime, if you will, if you were caught the second time trafficking children. It was voted down. They said, you know what? No need to spend extra time in prison for trafficking children. Why? Why would you do that? One of the, if not the most heinous crime you can possibly commit. Why give them the ability to have shorter jail sentences? That makes no sense. And I would even say states that have said, you know what, if you don't let your child transition if they desire to, they become property of the state, and then we will transition them as the state. We will take them from your custody and they will become custody of the state. To me, that is as much child trafficking as some of the other stuff. So that seems very easy. However, what about this idea now that that's pulling away from the idea that most children are abused by people that know them? Well, here's the deal. Two things can be true at the same time. World elite can be involved in trafficking children, and a lot of children, maybe even a majority of children, can be abused by those that know them, by those that they're familiar with, right? By those that they feel safe with. Those things can occur at the same time. It's not an either or. It's not either they're being trafficked by world elite or they're being abused by people that are close to them. It's not an either or. Both things are, it's possible for both things to be true at the same time. So why do I think this might be used against us in the long run? Just hear me out on this, okay? Whenever I played football when I was growing up, I was an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman, okay? And my job as an offensive lineman was to block the individual in front of me, to stop them from getting to whoever had the ball behind me most of the time, right? That was my job. And so, that being said, it's very important that you get your head on one side of that person, because it's very hard for them to run through your head and shoulder, right? But if you just have your arms over here, it's easy for them to get past you. However, we all know it's not a perfect world. That doesn't always happen. You don't always get your head around like you're supposed to. And so, if you don't, and let's say they're going to run the ball right off of your shoulder, if you don't get your head around there, you're in trouble. So you have to make a choice at that time. If they're already heading this way, the best thing you can do if you've already messed up is to grab a hold of them and use their momentum against them and just try to run them clear out of the play rather than get your head around and stop them. I believe that this movie, even though I haven't seen it, it sounds like this movie, at least it broke through, right? It come through. The World Elite wasn't able to get their head around and stop it completely. So now I think there's a strong probability that they're going to try to use this momentum now to push us further than what we need to go, an overreaction. Does anything like the Patriot Act ring a bell to you? Remember that, you know, supposedly these guys flew planes into the Twin Towers, and somehow or another a plane hit the top of the tower and the thing just ended up falling at the rate of gravity because planes ran into the top of it. Makes perfect sense. But you remember how that all happened, right? Well, what happened was they wanted the ability to tap like every American's phone to listen to it, to see whether or not they were involved in terrorism. Now, a knee-jerk reaction to that is either we don't want the government listening to everything that we say, but also there's a lot of good, well-meaning people that's like, hey, if you're not doing nothing wrong, who cares if they're listening, right? And now they literally track and trace every little thing, and now we understand that if you are a Bible-believing Christian, you are probably considered a domestic terrorist by the United States government. So there's some issues there, obviously, right? They carried that momentum further than it was supposed to go. If I'm looking through a biblical lens, and I'm saying, hey, the Bible says there's going to be a world-leading government headed up by one individual primarily and his false prophet, and they're going to demand that you take a mark. And I have often said that this mark is also, I really believe it's a physical thing. I truly do. And I truly believe it will be sold as convenience and those kinds of things. If you look into ID 2020, ID 2020 is a digital identification that you carry on your person. They don't say implanted, but they want it where it can't be taken by somebody else and all these things. It's got all your information on it. It's got your banking information, your health records. That way, if you're displaced, right, they can basically scan you like a barcode and know everything about you. How easy would it be for the world elites, if you will, to go, you know what? People think it's a problem. Let's go ahead and show them that it is a problem. And then let's tell them this is why you must take these IDs. This is why you must have this implantable, trackable, nanotech, microchip, whatever, mark of the beast system. This is why you must have it, because your child will be unsafe if you don't. Now, I will tell you how unsafe we believe the world is as a family. If my wife is going to go to the grocery store, she does not take all the children with her at once. Because it's too much. It's too much to watch all of them and continue to try to get groceries as well. Because we live in a wicked world, and because even our local small town grocery stores and Walmart and all of those things have been used as a place where people were abducted by people that were involved in these types of things. Terrible, awful things. Awful, awful, awful. So we find other ways to do it. They either go to their grandma's house, or dad stays home with them, or whatever. But we do not take them all at once unless we are both going to the grocery store. Because it's an evil world. I'm not taking away from that. And I'm not saying something doesn't need to be done. But what I am saying is, don't let them use this momentum now against you to make you believe all of a sudden it's a good idea for everybody to be chipped and tracked and traced, where they got all the information on them that you could possibly have, because it'll be sold as something that is very good and it's a safety thing for your child. And of course, just like I gotta be careful, it's on YouTube. I'd been on a community strike and I've been on Rumble and I could speak freely. But just like the doohickeys that your children have to get to go to public schools and all of those kinds of things, right? This is safe. This is for their safety. This is for their betterment. And then as a child of God, you find out that some of those doohickeys contain aborted fetal cell lines, and you're like, you know what? I'm not comfortable with that. But see, they don't tell you that whenever they're just like, you don't want your child to get sick, do you? It'll be something like, well, you don't want your child to get abducted, do you? They better take this chip. They better take the nanotech running through their veins. They better take this digital ID that they're going to have to buy and sell anyway. So be careful. I appreciate you guys watching. We'll catch you on the next video.